This is Teach, Play, Love. The Bright Horizons Parenting Podcast just for ages 0 to 8. Get the advice you need from our own early childhood expert, Education Vice President Rachel Robertson. And make the most out of every chance to teach, play, and love.
How's your start to the school year? It's certainly looking very different this fall for all of us, children and parents. Every family's trying to figure out how it's going to work for them. So what can you do to help your child and help yourself handle all that's being thrown at you? Here's Rachel and Ruth to set you up mentally and emotionally for the school year ahead.
Hey, Ruth. I'm excited to be with you again today and talk about a topic that I know is top of mind for all parents right now. It's definitely on my mind. And I shouldn't even just say all parents, all those helping in raising young children, grandparents like yourself and others involved. We are having a village mentality more than ever right now. And we're going to talk about school. No matter what your school district has decided, it's just really different. This back to school season is nothing we've ever experienced ourselves or our children have experienced. So in this podcast, we really are going to talk about how to help your children and yourselves through this change process. And we want to give you some ideas about how to think about it that can maybe give you a chance to step back from the, oh my gosh, what do we have to do? And just think about, okay, what do we want to do? What do we want to get out of this crazy time that we're in, and how to feel good about preparing yourself and your child the best you can for hopefully some success.
It's just totally different, isn't it? It's absolutely amazing. I have been talking with my granddaughters about their school, and it's nothing I could have even imagined. And I'm not even that old of a grandma, but it's nothing I could have imagined. So I think there are some things that we can remember, or some things that you and I can kind of bring to the surface that would be helpful for people to remember. And there's just so many things to wonder about. But there are so many of those things that we just can't control. So I think it's really important to remember to focus on what you really can control. When I think about things that you can control, the first one that comes to my mind is I can control how I show up. And show up is kind of in air quotes. I can control how I show up for my family, how I show up for work, how I show up for a kid when they're having a really hard time.
I think that's such an important thing to think about in this scenario, right? Like, I've tried to give some suggestions to school too, and maybe I can control it. But it is really valuable to just pause for a minute and think, it feels out of control, but it's not all out of control. I have some control here.
That's really true, Rachel. And when it becomes overwhelming, when you kind of make the list of all the things you cannot control, that's when you feel like, oh, there's nothing I can do about this. But
right.
So what I'm asking us to do today is to focus on what we can control, like the way you show up, not the way somebody else shows up, but the way you show up. And the way you show up really does affect the rest of your family. It affects the people that you work with. It has a rippling effects on all those things. So when you think about your kids, think about, how do I want to show up? If there's chaos in the house, do I want to show up angry and add to that chaos? Or do I want to show up calm and collected? It's really a choice. Now, I just said it was a choice. That doesn't mean it's an easy choice.
Right.
For a lot of us, the easiest way to show up is just the way we've always shown up. And so maybe if your kids are having an argument in the other room, maybe your kind of knee-jerk reaction is to, hey, knock it off in there, or stop, whatever you normally do. So if you want to show up and be calm, it probably is going to take some practice and some thinking about what calm looks like for you. It's kind of like when you are going to do a presentation for your work, or if you're going to have a job interview, you kind of rehearse those things. What does it look like when I'm sitting really straight in a job interview? What does it look like when I answer a question or when I'm being really interested in what they have to say? And the same kind of thing for your kids when you want to show up for your kids. This may seem silly, but actually standing in front of a mirror and making a face that looks like I'm really interested in what you have to say, or let's calm down. What does it look like when I'm calmed down? So, and I think the other thing, Rachel, that's important to remember is no matter how you show up for your kids, you're modeling how to handle that stress. And that can be a really, really valuable lesson for kids.
Yeah, and I think an important part, and we all know this intuitively, but to just think about, we don't get to opt out of that, right? We are role models, whether we add to the chaos, whether we get angry quickly, or whether we help calm and we bring reason and we support children's understanding of how to handle a crisis or a difficult situation. Either way, we are role modeling.
Right. No option out.
Well, and doesn't that make it even more important? Another tip or another thing we want to really give to people and to think about is how to take care of yourself as a parenting strategy. We've been talking to parents and families about the challenges and different ways to think about parenting right now. And one of the things we keep mentioning over and over, and we know it's important to hear and to process, is taking care of yourself is a parenting priority, both role modeling that and so you can be the best adult parent, grandparent, aunt, brother, whatever you are to contribute to the children in the family. It's like that analogy you hear, or put your own mask on first when you're taking a flight. Remember flights we used to take? But the other way, one way we've been talking about it is if you're a pitcher pouring into cups and your children or a child are the cups, you have to have a full pitcher. And if you're just pouring out all the time, you're going to run out. You're going to be empty. And then you're less likely to be able to show up or even take the time to think about how to show up in a way that's going to contribute in a positive way, that you're going to help with the calm versus adding to the chaos. So as you think about yourself, I'm in this boat. I am a full-time working parent with kids, and I am working more than I've ever worked before. It is a busy time. We're virtual, adjusting to all these new routines and expectations, so much change. It's a mental strain all the time. Lots of things taking from my pitcher all the time. So we have to think about, and are there things we can do, let go of? Are there things we can switch around? Can we ask for help? Can we be more willing to ask for help? Just really thinking about yourself as that pitcher. In the last couple of weeks, I've had a couple of conversations with you. You've probably heard this before too, as parents say, I snuck out for a walk, or I feel really guilty, but I went to, yes. I know there's not a lot of options people have these days, but I went to the grocery store by myself, or something, and parents having a little guilt about that. And I'm going to propose that you can let go of that guilt, and you can say to use it as a role modeling opportunity to say to your child is, I'm going to go for a walk because I'm going to take care of myself a little bit. What are you going to do to take care of yourself today? And sometimes you could do it together, and you could say, to take care of myself today, I need a peaceful walk, but let's do it together. You can put some boundaries and strategies and feel good about that as a parent, that this is going to help you, but you are teaching your kids some good skills as well.
I think that's really important too, to really explain that to them and say, I am doing this to just take care of myself, and you should do things to take care of yourself as well. It's a really valuable thing. It's one of the valuable lessons you really can control.
And of course, you want to make sure that it's balanced with time with them, with your children, but you'll be able to do that if you're balancing it for some things for yourself. I mean, sometimes it's, sitting in the car for 10 extra minutes before you come in the house, or something I've done is people try to tell me I can go in front of them at the grocery store because I don't have that many items. And I say, no, I'm good. I'm going to stand in this line for a little bit extra time. Look at the magazines. I'm fine. This is my time. Take it where you can get it, and don't feel bad about it, and model it. And then of course, balance it. That gets me into this last idea we want to give families right now, is to have realistic expectations about this time. The best way to be disappointed and frustrated and feel like you're not doing a good job is to have expectations that don't match reality. And we've had to change those quickly because reality looks a heck of a lot different than it did And we don't know what's coming next, which is one of the hardest parts, is we don't know what reality is going to be in a month from now. But what we can, back to what you were saying, Ruth, here's some things we can control. We can control our expectations and we can reset them. So here's a couple things I want to share. First of all, there's no blueprint for this. You cannot be failing because there is no one right way to do this. This is uncharted territory. We've said unprecedented million times.
Yeah, Rachel, that's really true. And I think it feels good to hear that because there is no blueprint, you can't be doing this wrong. There's that little twinge in us, though, that looks at the post on Facebook and says, yeah, but that look, she's got it totally under control. But that's not probably true either. Yeah, comparing yourself to what you think is someone else's expectation isn't helpful.
Yeah, exactly. That's such a good advice. And especially in this time of, that's how we're communicating with people, social media, virtual, we're seeing a lot of that. Make the decisions that are right for you and your family and take the time to do that. And my other tip that I say, no matter what, is we are not after perfection here. Perfection actually gets in your way. What you want to do is make progress. So do you feel better today than you did yesterday, or maybe measure it by weeks versus days, because sometimes days go up and down? Is you are making progress, you are feeling better about your strategy, you are getting some skills, your children are getting some skills. That's what you're aiming for. Progress. Perfection is just that thing that it really does get in our way in so many ways, and learning and human development. And so we just keep our eye on progress. And I'm just going to remind you all listening that you don't need to buy anything. You don't need to spend any money. You can do those things, but you don't need to do any of those things. You as an adult, even if you're stressed, you have what it takes to get through this, and you have what your children need. So using some of these tips and these ideas and giving yourself the time to reset, you have what it takes. So spend some time, clarifying your own goals and taking some time to figure out what you can control and what is right for your family and how you want to show up. And you will get through this. Your child will get through this, or your children will get through this. And maybe you'll even gain some good self-care strategies as a parent overall that you can apply when we're through all of this.
So let's always remember that oxygen mask analogy, and to remember how vital it is to take care of ourselves. And as Rachel says, it's not about being perfect, it's about making progress. Of course, if you start to feel like your stress is overwhelming and getting too difficult to handle on your own, then definitely seek professional help. Good luck with the school year. Thanks for listening. Subscribe to us and find more episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time on Teach, Play, Love, and rediscover parenting as the joy it was meant to be.